Chua Chamba Dashi, Jizu, Yuda, Chima, Yakana, Chicken, Dola, Niba, Dimbo, Yin, Gibu, Tajin, Tawana, Jampo, Tonki, Sota, Super. Todo Patan Dimba, Chijiro, Chibi, Montune, Punji, Boy, Demiro, Sibi, Bizuji, Mimi, and Tabejo. Yuni Chimbo, Jawa, Chijira, Nanda, somebody, Tamba, Yetana, Chijim, Pojichim. Tembe Gawa, Soso, Tabala, Duba, Nimbo, Chiba, Chijila, Rani, Situru, Loa Punjan Tenda, Watone, Loa Duve, Purji, Janju, Sinju, Jumba, Chijila, Senza, Jijan, Sudu, Nasona, Pamena, Janju. Deva Tone, Jesse, Tambala, Tumba, Tabe, Loba, Chijila, Lobe, Yula, Yama, Shiji, Yanda, Sujinjo. Senna, Sundu, Deve, Jula, Jawa, Tomorrow, Janju, Juvana, Teba, Punju, Tuju, Jete, Gasan. Jala, Yudu, Juba, Chindila, Temo, Jordan, Jube, Janada, Teta, Suma. Juma, Mimbe, Nebadi, Jania, Soda, Pidi, Soa, Jindila, Tene, Pidi, Limbo, Niki. Sisi, Done, Tumbai, Tiji, Nanju, Tole, Miowa, Tambe, Sunji, Dovadi. Tadala, Debe, Shinyan, Suji, Dube, Tona, Jate, Chida, Nandi, Padu, Jube. India Dozo Jawa Kundu Yanda Lama Landa Chiji Bella Lonji Sada Lanji De Lozo Neto Champion Gobo Judo. Tajala Machi Bhajan was a Uneco de Toba Sanji to Govan and Budget in Yuani to Tobacha. Here Tobacha to the Jerusalem with the Hibit Netuba, Sendajam Ruto to Tomeni de Lansol. What an enemy to watch about her? Cousin Tija Bunga Bachim to the future at the Tambasamu. Kanju Lamjet in Betine, no that Chile, no Mondu Yeben Nangi, and then Tajo Sumba. Sunam Jelton Tebe, not any sitting on Shingi, Chin did the December Joe in the Gono Kunji, the Banam, the Basset of the Assembly show.
So at the outstart, let us adjust our motivation for receiving the teaching, thinking that just as far as space extends, existing within that space are countless individuals in the state of dissatisfaction and suffering, and in order to lead each and every one of them out of that state, I myself must achieve the state of perfection, must achieve all that is to be taken up, all the wondrous qualities, and abandon all that is to be abandoned, all the destructive states of emotion and the subtle imprints left thereby, and achieve the state of omniscience, complete and perfect Buddhahood. And in order to achieve such a state, I must initially receive instructions on how to approach such a path leading to such a state, and from within the manifold types of graduated stages of the path, to such a state instructions, the Lamrim instructions. I'm today going to receive a commentary, which is known as the Essence of Refined Gold, which is a text or a pith instruction, which has all the important points of everything the fully enlightened one said. It is adorned with the instructions of Sangha and Nagarjuna, as handed down and received by Atisha, who utilized this as the basis, and then this genre was further elaborated upon by Tsongkhapa, and this type of pith instruction or meditation instruction is known as the kind of heart essence of such practitioners. And from within the manifold literature, this is a text by the third Dalai Lama, known as the Essence of Refined Gold. So with this attitude, then we'll proceed with the teaching. So the text then starts, if you have the copies. To the feet of the accomplished masters, embodiment of the three jewels, profoundly I turn for spiritual inspiration. Bestow upon me your transforming powers. Initially, the third Dalai Lama, Sono Gyatso, pays homage to the master who taught him the unmistaken path. His principal or main spiritual master was the greatly realized scholar, Panchen, called Sono Drapa.
단주 나와지던 주버 주촌에 되는 미일루게 토바텔에 되는 배 겸해서 마소 되다 되고 제번들이 기분 남지 가르냠소랑 고야리잖아. 녀석은 같이 추니 유시율에 제외되는 토바산지 존재지 주선배 주지 공부 진입이여 상태로게 전다대마 뒤대바 예소다는 님보체 다 두손제 파파 탐지 주버티베 라무선데 두손었을 때 네배 두손 전생배되네 파파 마음배 두손 주버티베 파파 다들 주의집에 파파 탐지 주버티베 라미 예소 참말로 근데 랑가 대간에야 페베 예소다네 주버티베 라무선 다시가 저 볼루도 소매 이제 라무소소바 인사 제외 서로 그 공부를 제외 되네 이제 주태를 되네 하는 매배 되네 그 가르쳐 한게 남수 친구 채워 되라 되네 나 꼬만 비신도 손제다 나리 비신도 손제 니체 방금 봐봐도 그렇게 꼬만 비신도 손제체 봐봐 통해대 나리 비신도 손제체 어디 대다 sadha chenpo nije la suji. Namba tamje chenpe saran roye jeo churu sumba yenza, namba tamje chenpe zoba sanje chi saran rokenge kansagi ki tenebe chu nyauso rayati. Jibu sunje nyauso rangje semba tamje matangwa neba gyoba aswanta, jibu chungo da, jibu dinda, jibu chenpo chi, tebe nyauso rangje semba tamje matangwa neba gyoba chi, chanchu ramje semba shi chawa tige lesu.
So if we read from the first two paragraphs, here for the spiritually inclined being who wish to take advantage of the opportunities afforded by human life, is a treatise on the Lamrim tradition of meditation, a tradition known as stages on the spiritual path leading to enlightenment. So here, for those individuals who wish to practice a particular spiritual tradition, to utilize the opportunity which is afforded by having this human life, which is adorned with the wonderful faculty of human intelligence. For those spiritual seekers, you might say, this is a particular instruction known then as the graduated stages of the path leading to enlightenment. Graduated in the sense that they are graduated steps of meditation instructions, and the place where such contemplations or reflections will lead one is to the state of complete and perfect enlightenment. The next paragraph reads, what is the Lamrim tradition? As it says here, it is the essence of all the teachings of the Buddha, the fully enlightened one, whose 84,000 bundles of scripture are kind of distilled, and the essence of which is extracted and placed within an instruction which is both easy to comprehend and easy to delightful to put into practice. This is the practice which the Buddhas of the past have practiced. It is the path or the spiritual instruction which those who are going to a Buddhahood in the present moment will achieve a Buddhahood upon, and for those in the future who will achieve a complete and perfect enlightenment or Buddhahood, it is in dependence upon these instructions that they will achieve such a state. This is the legacy of the great masters of the past, and here two masters are mentioned because of their particular relevance. Here the two masters are Nagarjuna and Sangha. Nagarjuna being the kind of forerunner of the middle way view, and the Sangha of the variety of reasonings, mind-only schools or views, or presentation of views of Buddhism. These particular individuals are also renowned as ones who gave the instructions of the profound and the vast. So these instructions then which are left as the legacy of these two masters and others are included within this particular instruction. This is it says here the religion, but a better translation would be this spiritual path or instruction is that of the Supreme People leading to the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood, the unabridged synthesis of all practices included within the three levels. That is to say that the instructions which are in common to a person of lesser, middling, and then unique instructions for a person of greater aspiration, as will become apparent later. This then is the graduated stages of the path, or the Lamrim tradition. The next line, the third paragraph, goes on to read, the Lamrim is an especially profound aspect, for it is a tradition of practice which is sound in origin. So in order to validate this, then we should look at the author of this particular genre of spiritual meditation instruction. And as it is said, everyone realizes the profundity of the author, then one will appreciate his or her writings. So here then, with regard the great exposition of the stages of the path to enlightenment, then within those kind of treatises, at this juncture there would be the biography of the kind of forerunner of this particular tradition, who is known as Atisha. However, as this is a very concise meditation instruction manual, it is only kind of hinted at. So in order to elucidate that, we should look briefly at the biography of Atisha, who is the forerunner of this particular tradition. Forerunner in the sense that it was Atisha who first made this kind of tradition of meditation instruction available for us. Atisha was an individual who was born as the Prince of Bengal, and he led a very princely existence, royal existence, until a few factors occurred in his life which caused him to doubt the kind of validity of his particular existence. So he abandoned his position and sought out many masters, and from each and every one of them he received meditation instructions, and not only receiving the lineage of transmission, but also putting that into practice and in dependence upon those instructions, achieving extremely high levels of spiritual realization, known as the realization of the various levels of the path, the various levels of the grounds of those paths leading to a state of complete and perfect enlightenment. So he was born in a royal family. He made use of that human existence by seeking out spiritual instructions and putting them into practice. And after having achieved spiritual awakening or realization, how he then worked for the teaching, that is to say in ancient India, how he worked for the propagation of the Buddhist teaching, teaching there, composing books and educating those disciples who came to him for instruction. And then later how he went to the snowy land of Tibet, and then therein expounded the teachings, giving these very same quintessential basic instructions for the spiritual development of his disciples. The paragraph goes on to read, it is a tradition which has neither fault nor shortcoming, for it is a complete training, perfectly uniting method and wisdom aspects of the path. So here this particular instruction is not something which is partial, rather it is complete in that it has the essential distilled essence of all the instructions of the fully enlightened one in a matter laid out in a manner which is very easy to understand and to put into practice. It provides all the levels and grades of the teaching which are passed down through Nagarjuna and the Sangha, for the practice is meant for beginners on the path, up to and including the final technique, independence upon which one can achieve the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. The structured Dharma of taintless origin, taintless in the sense that it is a tradition which finds its root in the faultless words of the fully enlightened one, is like the wish-fulfilling gem, for through it infinite beings can easily and quickly accomplish their purposes. Just as if one has a wish-fulfilling gem, that gem, when treated in a certain way and made supplications toward, can fulfill all the hopes and wishes concerning one's life. For example, if one wants certain things, one can make a request to this gem and those wishes will be fulfilled. So in just the same way, this particular instruction is like a wish-fulfilling gem for those individuals who wish to engage in a spiritual practice. Whatever practice you would like to or wish to engage in can be fulfilled through utilizing these particular instructions. The second example is combining the rivers of excellent teaching of both the Hinayana and the Mahayana scriptures or instructions. It is like a mighty ocean. So just as all the rivers have their final destination, it's a great ocean. So here that the principal division into two of the lesser or Hinayana and then the greater or Mahayana teachings, they are likened to rivers, which then finally arrive into the great ocean. So within this great ocean, those waters are indistinguishable. So in the same way, these instructions within of the graduated stages of the path are likened to a great ocean, within which you find that the spiritual instructions or the waters of the spiritual instructions of the various vehicles leading to the respective states of cessation.
내가 그 변한 걸로 뒤에 또 봐요. 소사데 주제 요소 더 와서게 방법이지. 아 생들을 좀 조르체네. 땜베 냥수 렌겨 와서. 아 자주 남게데 거수 되는 실제 때는 배가 또 많이 봐. 그게 랑게 되는 배 냐면게 좀 받다 전에 소수주지 용문번 두배 좀 받지 또 전에 땜바에 소사네 냥수 라마다 라리 제대부디 대부 용도가 됐어. 그치? 아 로도 로라 케베 리뷰 구조다 포메게 로라 케베 셀레베 담베 쳔바이베 디더블라 냐손 본손 제디 요반데 다 껴와상 삼바 다 껴와상 뭐냐도 상고베다 담보도 셈바 주제 용수 조바다 센드에 담보 조치베 라다랑 되와타 신다 주문이지 룰라 케베 라마 니지 당하게 쳔바선 어떤 체주수 숨버디 되는
One way you can test the kind of quality of such an instruction is given as follows. If we go back to that paragraph, it says, revealing the principal points of the Sutra and Vajrayanas, it is a complete teaching, a complete tradition with complete teachings, outlining the main techniques for taming the mind. It is easily integrated into any practice, being a teaching combining the lineages of the Guru Vidya Kokila, a sage of the Nagarjuna school, and Lama Selinba, a sage of the Asanga school. It is a precious ornament. Therefore, to hear, contemplate, or meditate upon such a discourse is fortunate indeed. So here that the three qualifying aspects of this teaching are initially that it is a teaching which has the key points for the practice of the Sutrayana, whether it be of the lesser or greater vehicles, and also of the secret mantra Vajrayana. If one were just to look at the teaching of what each of those vehicles or each of those traditions in and of itself, we find that they are not complete in that there is certain instruction from the other traditions lacking therefrom. So, however, within this particular explanation of spiritual practice, the essential points that are included from all of those vehicles and are laid out in a way which is very easy, as the second point mentions, for us to put into practice. And the reason why it's easy for us to put into practice is the very reason for laying out the instructions in such a fashion is with the prime intention of subduing or taming or training the mind of those who meditate and reflect upon such instructions, which are then adorned, this is the third point, by the pith instructions of the great masters known as Nagarjuna and Asanga, which were received by Atisha from his two principal masters, who were known as Vidyakokila and Selinpa respectively. So those precious instructions then were kind of inserted into all the other instruction in a way which is very easy to put into practice. So these 3 points then are that which makes or which distinguishes this graduated stage of the path to enlightenment from other teachings.
Zale keba yon jisu ge jen, nyembe paden dronan hangewa, rudu tome nyele rekendu, leju chanchu ramje rimbani, jikun jude malu kome na, tambari ti onki jebuti, jonson tongi chuun duwechi, pande lebre sepe jatsu inshi son so osu. Teta dale le ya keba mungu yoare, keba gangaro gibe, jigu suki jen dabu chene tangi cha shasa tang, ane nyembe paden, comment che nyara de nebe chotam de la ba chok de ba de rudu to thome ni da tele ma ba jen du leber ju be chan ju lam de ba ni ane kham su ji ju ko tham ji de ma lu ba ko yin so ta de dam ba de chen ong ge de bo ta bu de ane jo sam bo tong chu won ju wa yin so ta de
So, the conclusion of the first part, which is known as, from the outline, as the nature of the instruction, is a quotation from Lama Tsongkhapa's song on the stages of the spiritual path, or we might say it's a song of spiritual realization by that particular master, which reads, from Nagarjuna and the Sangha, banners unto all mankind, ornaments amongst the world's sages, comes the sublime Lamrim lineage, fulfilling all hopes of practitioners. It is a wish-fulfilling gem. Combining the streams of 1,000 teachings, it is an ocean of excellent guidance. So from within the world, we find a variety of learned ones, sages. From within all of those, we find that the kind of crown ornaments are those two, Nagarjuna and Sangha. This can be understood slowly from appreciating the writings of such masters, and from their meditation experience and instructions comes this Lamrim tradition, this graduated stages of the path leading to enlightenment, which is likened initially to a wish-fulfilling gem for those who wish to engage in a spiritual practice. This is like the wish-fulfilling instruction, which will fulfill all those spiritual aspirations. And in addition to that, it is an ocean which gathers together the river-like instructions from all directions, placing them within easy reach. So, if we think of the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, according to one instruction and as the fortunate aeon, within this time frame of this particular aeon, it is said that 1,000 Buddhas will come to this particular world system, and for that reason it is known as a fortunate aeon. So from within this 1,000, Shakyamuni Buddha is the fourth one. The first one was known as Kenje, then the second one is Situ, the third one is Usum, and the fifth one will be Maitreya Buddha. So Shakyamuni Buddha is the fourth, and is the particular, in this particular age, that we are fortunate enough to come into contact with his instructions or his teachings. For what reason we are so fortunate, we might say? Here, the Buddha Shakyamuni is unique in that he has, owing to his prior aspiration, taught an incredible amount of not only sutric teaching, but also the secret mantra Vajrayana teachings. From within there, the kind of heart of his instruction is known as the Prajnaparamita Sutras, or the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And these are very vast and difficult to understand. However, the distilled essence is found within a treatise known as the Ornament for Clear Realization, the Avasavaya. And within this, you find that the meaning of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras is kind of laid out. So you may wonder, what is the intent then of these particular instructions? And here there is two. Initially, there is the directly taught stages of understanding of emptiness, and then there is the hidden meaning of the instructions for gradual spiritual development. The former was elaborated upon by Nagarjuna in what is known as his 6 cycles of reasoning, and the latter then was expounded upon by this ornament for clear realization. And within that you find the instructions of a kind of gradual spiritual progression.
George Pande Atisha Gatan Tibetan and Jumaki, Tan Jabatella, that Terenta, Arenda, that day in Kadam Belamazuki, Zabi, Jumamuchua in Badi, that to do none, Jesu Chombati, Consul Duela Machaja or Tongo Chibuki, Chanju Landia by Chimonzel. That dinner and Chanju Landia by Chimo and Nangi, Lori Juba to the part, Horde, Yaning, Machanama, Odo Son Shabatella. Chanju Landia by Chuan, this one. Chuan is the boy. The age of the Lavin Yangursen, the Dogeli, the Tayan, all kinds of Malucideti is able to set it to the Lambuchata, the Damekambati, Tenema, and the Son Yamati, Tiki, and the Son Shabati, Lavin Dunichi. This somebody did a niche with him, Lavin Son. I didn't want to did I need to book somebody. Sheba Tanki Laren to Chiri Sheba, Sitter Noe, don't you cover a chow water somebody. Sheshava Kangabe, Ma Sanotanima, Rotoya Tishra Kawachiwalis. He and that's also give a Sanotani, Rolla Gianti, Tundujo Chenema, Duba di Chenesuna, and the agent. That Dilla Punshani, and it Jawasunam Jetu. Sishuma. He Javata Bulia, Jawanga Chambukitini, Narin Jame Shalom the Son. And then Pinky Rosa Chuti, Narin Dharamsala. He Javata Bulia, and Pinky Rosa is Narin Yuram the Son. And then Tabong our Tabe, and the Judge Ramjet, but City Manche. Mother, take Jabutella, Narin City Gays and those the trouble.
So using the ornament or filigree for clear realization as the root or the foundational text, the essence thereof, this hidden meaning of gradual stages of spiritual development, was extracted by Atisha and put into writing, and is renowned as the lampa for the path. This was the first stages of the path text, which was actually written down from within the varieties of Kadamba masters, which existed between the 11th and 13th centuries. There were some instructions known as graduated stages of the path and graduated stages of the doctrine. So whatever way you term it is pretty much the same thing. This gradual kind of laying out of spiritual instruction. But that which is renowned as the first, this graduated stages of the path, was the Lamp for the Path, written by Atisha himself. This served then as the foundation or the root text for Lama Tsongkhapa's first Lamrim text, which is known as the Great Exposition of the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. And within there you find a wealth of spiritual instruction, quotations from varieties of Word of the Buddha and subsequent commentaries, both Indian and Tibetan. And this is a very kind of a difficult and scholarly work. However, for those disciples who wish solely to practice, then the distilled essence thereof is known as the lesser stages of the path to enlightenment by, again, Tsongkhapa, or this is sometimes renowned as the middle length stages of the path, because we have another gradated stages of the path to enlightenment text or poem by Tsongkhapa, which is known as the Song for Spiritual Realization, which is a kind of expression of the way Tsongkhapa himself meditated upon the stages of the path to enlightenment and his subsequent realization thereof. This particular poem serves as the root text for the book which we have in our hands now, this Essence of a Refined Goal, which is a kind of commentary on the intended meaning of that poem. And then, dependent upon that, dependent upon this the text which we have in our hands, there is another commentary by the fifth Dalai Lama, which is known as the Essence of, which is known as the Sacred Word of Manjushri. And in addition to that, we have two Lamaran texts by the first and second Panchen Rinpoches, respectively, known as the quick and known as the blissful and the quick paths. And then, in addition to that, our Dharma's instructions make out what is renowned, or what are renowned, as the 8 great Lamaran or graduated stages of the path to enlightenment instructions.
Atisha Lamba Hibu Kuju Kundine Mombulune, my Jambayan Lutu, Tenema, the Merchant Jube, some of the Juba, say. That Jamban and Pomen, Jewish Abbey, they did you to Jubati, Lama selling to Kundine, that's something. They do Tane, and Jubanibuti, keep the table. But the Atisha, some of the Judah, they did you to Jubanibuti, keep this Juba, Juba the Rogatin. Now, then a Kadam Balaya, then a Kadam Jumba and the Tobe Jung Shabachen, Shadabi Jachabuchin, Shabachen, and then Shabachi, and then Giving Puto and Etanama, Jubachene, protecting money, Mankiwa the Parasad and Tabu Kendi, Chitosa, Tabu Kendi, Chito Pesan, and the Tabu Kendi, Chito Pesan, the and then did in the Lade, Gadam Zumba in the Jubati. And then Parasad Nanju to Pande Kumba Panema, Jube, and then Kadam Lavren Batan, Visitima one Jube, Kadam Mena Jubachen, and Jubati. Protecting the Nagajan Kundine, did a teaching son. And the Kadam Balaya, Kadana, Jubason, Kadam Sumba Pada, Kadam Lane Pada, Kadam Menapa, and Son Yogati, Jubasumbati, did a teaching with the Jubati.
So the lamp for the path serves as the root text or the basis for all subsequent writings and explanations on this graduated stages of meditation instruction to enlightenment. And this text has its foundation in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, and also in addition to that, it has two lineages. So these two are respectively known as the profound and the vast. So you may wonder, what is meant by these two types of lineage? So here it is important to look at the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, and he gave a variety of instructions. So certain instructions that what are known or classified as the profound instructions were given to Manjushri, and Manjushri then gave these instructions to Nagarjuna, who then handed them to his disciples. Ayadeva, who then, and the lineage goes down through Chandrakirti, finally ending up with Vijayakokila, who was the teacher of this particular lineage, to Atisha himself. There is also the vast lineage, which again is a series of instructions given by the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, to Maitreya. Maitreya then handed this tradition down to Sangha, and then Sangha passed this on to Vasubandhu, and so it went, these instructions being given from master to disciple, down to Selimpa, who was the master who gave this particular instruction again to Atisha himself. So it is said that Atisha's particular method of presenting the pith instructions, or the quintessential meditation instructions, has as its basis the teaching of the Buddha, and in particular has, or rather is, drawn by these two lineages. Now when Atisha gave instruction in Tibet, he gave a variety of instructions, and these instructions were later categorized into three different ways of explaining the Buddha's teaching. There is the vast expression of the Buddha's intention, that is to say, giving the meditation instructions through the medium of the explanation of the scriptures in their entirety. So it's a vast way of teaching something. This is known as the lineage of scriptural citation, and this particular lineage went from Atisha to somebody known as Potawa, and ended up with somebody known as the great abbot Chokyam Pelsan. And it was from this master that the 14th century Tibetan master Tsongkhapa received that particular lineage. Then we have the lineage of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, which was handed down by, or given by Atisha, principally to his disciple known as the Great Yogin. And then that was handed down from master to disciple, and ended up with the great master from Lodra, known as Nanka Gyaltsen, whom Tsongkhapa received this particular Kadampa graduated stages of the path to enlightenment tradition from. Then there is the lineage of the quintessential pith instructions, these very, very tiny kind of instructions which meditated upon bring incredible spiritual awakening. This particular tradition again came from Atisha and was handed down to his disciple Chenghua, and again ended up with the great master from Lodra, Nanka Gyaltsen, from whom Tsongkhapa himself received this lineage. So it is said that from the time of Atisha, these particular ways of meditating on the spiritual path became distinct as three types of lineages, and then at the time of the 14th century, some 300 or so years later, Tsongkhapa himself received them and then again brought them all back into one lineage. So thus is the graduated stages of the path lineage of that particular master.
제외 공부 결합도 니베 쳐와 니죄 전부 랑가 손으로 쳐와 전 쳐와시 근데 쳐와시부터 되네 주 전주를 좀 받아 상황이 다 되나는 동보 때마 탄진 게미도 또봐 세트 거래서는 전주를 좀 받아 주사야고 제발에는 산지 존재되기 손에 손으로 제시 담만다 유대 받아 주자 삼바 탈때 바라 보내 손샤바도 삼마로 여와 매바 안테네베 카시 아니 람지 걸서거리 또어tin지 봐 카시 람지 되네베 야나 된지 봐 오다 되네제네베 여와 매바 아니베 벌써 유제지 강사지 창제베 냐네도 칠셔바지 Tumba Yotani, Tembatan in Game to be Choas. That is the Tena Tambandi, Yele Chipper Papi Cho Isida, Temba Hindi. Tambandilla Tene, Javesoro Chiniba Tamchele, Hachi Lamjuso, Hachi Lamji and Pinji Shene, Muda Juba Chiribu One, Kanza Rani, the Sanjave, Chachin to Koye, Temba Tamchi came in to be Choas, or the Ambo Tembatan came in to be Choa, Kandere Sana, Chantu Lamji and Bada, do some Cheba Latene, Tuba Sanji Jonde de Jusum Soro, Tamchi, Kashi, can be Lamju to Pinji. Kashi Lamji, Yana Pinji in Machine, most of the neighbor Sanji to Kumonto be told them. June and the neighbor Sanji to Kumonto be told Chiripa Yimbati, Kansa Rani the Butila, Sanjay Chetin to Sanji, Rani Sanjay Chetin to Kwati, the Matanti came to be Choas.
Well as having these three great points within the confines of the graduated stage of the path of enlightenment instruction, if we look again on page 3, there is the first paragraph reads, the Dharma teaching has 4 especially great facets. Here, the first one is it reveals how all the various doctrines of the Buddha are non-contradictory. If one relies upon the Dharma teaching, all the words of Buddha will be effectively comprehensible. One will see that there are root practices and branch practices, and that there are direct and indirect teaching, all of which aim at creating helpful circumstances along the stages of spiritual development for a practitioner like oneself. So here, through reflection upon the graduated stages of the path, we'll come to understand the instructions of the fully enlightened one are not contradictory, even though if one just dwells upon the words, they may seem as such, but rather were given at certain times to certain individuals in accordance with their mental disposition. So if we understand this instruction, we'll see that each and every instruction of the Buddha leads to the same destination, that is to say, the state of the cessation of dissatisfaction, whether it be in its temporary or ultimate sense. So through understanding this instruction, one can understand how that all the instructions of for the enlightened one, the Buddha, come together, even though some may be root and the others branch. Nevertheless, they are all necessary in order to lead a variety of disciples to the same destination.
La pendo yebe deni jeje twente be yiba shadaki yiba kwa cha tu la
The second of these four is that all the various teachings will be taken as personal advice. So this is something extremely important, because in general, when we look at the variety of Buddhist teachings, some of them are just general presentations, whereas others seem to be kind of personal or kind of pith meditation instructions. So here, if one understands this particular style of meditation instruction or introduction, here, dependent upon that, what we find is that all the teaching of the fully enlightened one will arise as a personal instructions for us, regardless of the theme, whether they be of the sutra vehicle or the mantra vehicle. All of these, whether they be the root text spoken by the fully enlightened one or the subsequent commentaries thereupon, will appear to us as personal kind of instruction, and then we'll understand how to fit that within the confines of our practice. We'll understand how each and every one of those instructions relates to us in overcoming certain destructive aspect of one's mind. The significance of all the teachings of the Buddhas and his successors, from the teaching on initially how to follow a teacher or spiritual master, up to those which deal with the actual mode of abiding of phenomena, will come into one's own hand, as if seeing it directly in the palm of one's hand. One will know how to practice the various types of meditation properly. So when we divide in general meditation, there is analytical and placement meditation. So here, analytical meditation refers to the analyzing of a certain subject in order to generate a realization thereof. And placement meditation refers to single-pointedly focusing upon a particular object. So if one understands this instruction, one will know how to meditate correctly. Thus then all the teachings are seen in perspective to one's own life and one's own spiritual progress. The third then of these factors, the thought or the intention of the Buddha will be easily found. Here this refers to the words or the 108 volumes of the sutras, or the words of the fully enlightened one, and the subsequent commentaries thereupon. These were what are known as the great treatises. So these then for a beginner are something which is next to impossible to fathom. So one needs then to rely upon the kind of clarified meaning thereof. However, if one relies on those subsequent commentaries, again, these are very general and very vast, and it's not something one can easily get into, so to speak. So if one has the quintessential instructions or the pithy instructions of a spiritual master, then as in this graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, what one finds is that one is easily able to ascertain the intention or the meaning of those particular instructions and able to relate that to one's practice. Here then, if one engages as a beginner in the kind of reading and contemplating of the greater treatises themselves, one may get the meaning, but then again one may not. And if one was to kind of gain some understanding thereof, it would require a tremendous effort and a large amount of time. However, if within this type of instruction, which has as its basis Atisha's lamp for the path to enlightenment, one understands the various quintessential instructions of all the kind of masters of the past, then through one can easily come to the intention or the thought of the fully enlightened one, and then know that all these instructions are given to subdue or to train the mind, and one will know how to apply those instructions to one's unruly mind. And lastly, of these four brackets, the great mistake of abandoning a lineage of Dharma will spontaneously be arrested. When one realizes the intent of the Buddha, all his direct and indirect teachings will be seen as wise and skillful means for satisfying the diverse spiritual needs of the variety of beings. To say that some lineages of the Dharma are perfect and should be practiced, whereas others are imperfect and should be ignored or abandoned, is what is the action or the karma, which is known as abandoning the Dharma, which is a greater negativity indeed. However, if one studies this particular instruction, one will see how all the doctrines of the Buddha and lineages coming therefrom are non-contradictory. So here, this is a great problem for us who are beginners on the spiritual path, what to actually practice and what not to practice. We may meet a variety of people who encourage us one way and discourage us in another way. However, if we are familiar with this type of meditation instruction or peace instruction, what we will come to the conclusion of is that all the instructions of the fully enlightened one are meant for certain individuals who have a certain type of mental capacity, and it depends upon that. If we impart such an instruction that would benefit benefit greatly from it. It's not to say that everybody need to practice that particular instruction at that particular time, but rather taking time and mental disposition into consideration. We understand the full intention of the Buddha, and we understand then how all the teachings are given to individuals at certain times in order to lead them to the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. Understanding that, then the kind of karma or the motivation of wishing to abandon certain Dharma teachings and practice something and abandon another, that kind of attitude loses its driving force. When its driving force has been cut or lost, then that action cannot occur. And this particular action of abandoning the Dharma is said to be an extremely negative one, and the reason for that is given in many sutras, where the Buddha mentions that from within the two actions of killing an arhat or a realized one and abandoning certain Dharma lineages, the latter is a worse action. With regard destroying all the stupas in the world and abandoning the Dharma, the latter is a worse action. So this action then is a terrible one, which will lead one to misfortune. So understanding this instruction then removes the force of that kind of a thought, even arising within our being. So on page 4, continue with the reading. These are the 4 great packets of the Lamrim tradition. So here that we've gone through the 3 greatnesses and also these 4 facets of the Lamrim tradition. So who with any common sense, here the actual Tibetan reads, what learned one would not be benefited by hearing a discourse upon it. Here then when we think about this type of discourse, it is something, or it is a set of instructions which is really wonderful. It is something that the fortunate ones, let's just say the great masters of India and Tibet, have long relied upon. When we think about the great masters of the past, they have, like we are doing, engaged in the listening to, the contemplation of, and meditation upon the teachings, on these same kinds of instructions, which is then a teaching, or with that delights kind of heart, makes one wish to kind of engage in the practice thereof. It is the stages of the spiritual path to enlightenment, these spiritual instructions for then a person of lesser, middling and greater disposition. And it is this kind of quintessential instruction which we have kind of the fortune to come towards, and is this, or it is rather upon this, that the masters of the past, present and future will attain realization upon.
아니 송도라 됐어. 이집 개비 개비 교원이 유제 대 채나 야가를 파베여다 벽 관계인데 전기 저놈을 전화를 개비들이 배교 mambo게 개대 교와다 좀 보면 때에 수제도 냥소는 배담바 초도 주바지 지부선제 람제선 바이 다 지부선 지부 중원도 부모야 람제선 바 지부 내다 부모야 람제선 바 지부 친구 람제선 바체 지부선제 람제선 바이 여러분 초죄대 수시 유스다 제대로 되는 장수 람제선 바기 벨라 할에 이 럽도 초네 대리베 개밥 미치게 되는 남주대 되면 가서 수지 이렇게
So then to sum up the root stanzas given from the lesser presentation of the Lama, or the song of the spiritual realization of Lama Tsongkhapa, reads, through this instruction, one perceives all doctrines as non-contradictory, all the teachings arise as a personal advice, whether they be the direct word or the subsequent commentaries upon the word of the fully enlightened one. The intent of the fully enlightened one is easily found, and therethrough one is protected from wandering close to the cliff face of the greatest mistake. Here, this refers primarily then to the mistake of abandoning the Dharma through not understanding these four instructions. Therefore then the wise and then the fortunate ones of both the ancient land of India and the snowy land of Tibet have relied upon this excellent legacy, known then as the stages in the practices of the three spiritual beings. Here then this refers to then those of lesser, middling and greater capacities, and the instructions or meditations which are in common with a person of smaller, middling, and then unique to a person of greater faculties, as will be presented. Those who have a strong mind, here that this refers to an individual who has a very strong will or a wish to engage in the spiritual practice, meditation and so forth, would not be intrigued by such a series of meditation instructions.
노소 도바다 지는 테레점 변수 신제 마로버 된지 시비 폐 상대 노소 대다 대대베 되는데 저시다 되는데 선지 존된데 되는데 당아 자유소로 탐제기 민구 된다데 직 조지도 주바디 기부선제 란제는 몇순데 노소 도바데 너 투선 세나데 다 시험와 퇴레점 변수 치제 말로가 된지 시비 폐 상대스 퇴레점 되는데 치제 말로가 되는 봐 되는데 가서 찾아내 시내 시다기 폐 먹어야 돼.
The tradition, possessing such strength and impact, takes the heart of all the teachings of the Buddha and structures it into steps from gradual spiritual evolution through the successive experiences of the path, running through the three levels of spiritual application. What an approach to spiritual practice! How can its greatness ever be described? Here then, the meaning which lies behind that is that even hearing an instruction on this series of pith or quintessential instructions contains then the impact of having heard the entire collection of Buddhist spiritual instructions. So for those who wish to engage in such a spiritual practice, in such a spiritual discipline, then merely through hearing about such an instruction, merely through taking a discourse thereupon, one kind of encounters the instructions which are meant for a variety of individuals. One will know how to practice that. This then, in and of itself, is something really rather marvelous, the distilled essence of the entire kind of corpus of Buddhist instructions.
Shula, Denma Sanji, 20 Sumit, Rinpoche, number song, Tuzolaya, and Kubata, Niamboa, Rinpoche. Anaji, Neve, Tree Neve, Neve, Kuno number Tabata, and then the Anaji, Tree Chibi, Senayam, Chitu Duzoyam, Junda Maneva, and one that Neve, Sudan Tumbaya, which is Shane, Nuda Temple Kazala, Dujabe, Nuda Temple Kazala, Chiti Maroba Jenny, Manoa Jenny, Tumbala Dene, Tamju Sujan to Shebe, the Kachamu, Shiragabe, Jumbuya, taking out of Jubati, Jubati to
And we continue the reading. Consider the beneficial effects of hearing or teaching the Dharma even once. An understanding of the fully enlightened one and his teachings. Here then teaching refers primarily to the three baskets of teaching arises, and how by means of a pure attitude and application, here then through going to such a teaching or seeking out or listening to such a teaching with an open mind, and then not only to hearing the teaching but then applying that, seeing if it is relevant to oneself with this attitude. That particular individual that is likened to a suitable vessel here for receiving such spiritual instruction or Dharma, collects benefit equivalent to those gained by having heard all the collected writings and instructions of the fully enlightened one. So it is said that even hearing this instruction one time is equivalent to hearing the most salient or important points of all the instructions of the fully enlightened one. So understanding this through this mere one's hearing such an instruction, one gains such incredible fortune and benefit.
추억의 팬도 해보자. 어떤 그래서 저와 덤덤비 조제 번에 아티샤를 걸리죠. 천디 년에 최 제발라 천디 지치수 천디 지역하나 지수 치만지 지수가 냐와치 이다치 junju치 전수 내가 내내 인도산에 말한 적이 최 년에 선호다나야 봄 겨울에 추 간데티 제거했나요? 물론 난다 3번 남았다고 해보고 그거 3번 남다 매매되니 3번 도자 제일 추 예배했나 추의 편 추의 다 증거했나요? 소수 3번 도자 손 해도 매버차 그래서 다니 바담을 남아도 송겨야지 추의 태벌집이 추의 임을 좋게 가사 태벌집이 제일 추 예배지 그제 어떤 순간 아주 소바티 네, 가보고 멤버 약하로는 샤요가지. 이거는 미장와다 내 매버지. 그게 매네요. 그 til이야 이거 뒤에나. 네, 이게 til이야 이거 뒤에나. 뭐 자다 뭐도 다 가르로 와야네. 가야 이거. 뭐가 로그로그 마마마 티네마. 연신에 차 상황 좀 넣어줘야 이거. 왜 뒤나시 추 나와 때버지 오늘데야 어디 제윤나요 생기 차 탐지된 세네 봐 때문에 어디 제는 점바데 메나 제메기 캡지 왔다 그래는 지 센스에서 오사사는 어디 만도 제기 쉬어야 되죠 쉬어야 되면 추년에 보면 도다 뭔가 살아난 거야 삼발라 교배도 마지도 고려하니 교배도 제사는 살았다요 말봐. 이인도단에 위계배 테레베 체배야 무진 셈. 생기 소재지게 많이 봐. 생기 차 탐지긴 해. 어디 늦지죠. 이인도단에 이제 교송 공부가 많은
So how should one appreciate such an instruction? We continue reading with the paragraph. Therefore, abandon the 3 wrong attitudes likened to a dirty pot, a pot with a hole in its bottom, and an upturned pot, and generate 6 recognitions. In this way, you will be able to gather the wealth of having approached the subject properly, whether you are studying or teaching a Dharma text, do so purely and with intensity. So here then, it is important to have an open-minded attitude when receiving such instructions, and it is important to have a correct or a good attitude when receiving such instructions. So there are 3 kind of ways within which receiving the Dharma teaching or these spiritual instructions is not really appropriate, and these are likened to a pot. So here then these 3 kind of faults of the vessel, or faults of the pot, are examples which illustrate wrong attitudes towards receiving teaching. So initially then, if one looks at from within the 3, if one's attitude is likened to an upturned pot, what does that mean, you may wonder? If we think about pouring tea or some other liquid into a container, to a pot, if it is turned upside down, no matter how much we pour atop the pot, it was just going to spill around the sides and around the area where that pot is upturned. So in the same way, if one's mind is distracted, if one's not really paying attention to the teaching, one's being there in the room with the teacher, giving the instruction, one's body is there, but one's mind is sadly absent. So this is likened then to the teaching being liquid and one's being the vessel. So, and being distracted, it is as if one has upturned oneself, therefore one has made oneself